think you're proving how deeply you can love. You think honesty builds trust, right? So you sit across from her, maybe over coffee, maybe on a late night phone call, and you decide, this time I'm going to be completely open. You spill it all. The heartbreaks, the insecurities, the financial mess you've been through. You believe that by laying out every piece of yourself, you're building intimacy. You think she'll admire your openness and reward you with deeper love. But let me give you the harsh truth most men never hear until it's too late. You're not building trust, you're destroying attraction. See? There are certain things a man should never reveal to a woman. Not because you should be fake, not because you should play games, but because oversharing kills respect. Once you reveal these things the wrong way, the mystery evaporates. The authority you once had dissolves. The respect she once felt turns into silent doubt. And eventually, you lose her. That's the hidden price of oversharing. But don't worry. Today, I'm going to expose the 5 secrets you should never tell a woman if you want to keep her respect, her admiration, and her desire burning for you. I'm not speaking as someone who just studied this in books. I've coached men for years. I've sat across from guys who poured their hearts out too soon, too much, in the wrong way. And I've watched that mistake cost them marriages, long-term relationships, and even their own sense of dignity. Don't let that be you. If you're new here, welcome to Female Code Unlocked. This is where I break down female psychology and reveal the truths most men never notice until they've already paid the price. Subscribe now if you're serious about understanding women and protecting your respect as a man. And before we dive in, drop in the comments. What's one thing you shared with a woman that completely backfired? I promise, you're not the only one. Now let's break it down, because the very first secret is the one most men give away the fastest. Secret number 1. Never tell her. How desperate you've been for love. Let me hit you with a truth that might sting. When you reveal just how desperate you've been in past relationships, how many times you begged, how many sleepless nights you spent chasing someone who clearly didn't want you, you think you're showing vulnerability. But in her mind, you've just lowered your value. Here's why. Women don't respect desperation. They might sympathize with you for a moment, but sympathy and respect live in completely different categories. Respect is built on stability, self-control, and the ability to stand tall even when life punches you in the gut. When you tell her about the times you lost yourself, begging for someone's affection, you're not painting a picture of a strong, grounded man. You're painting the portrait of someone who gave away his dignity just to stay in the game. And whether she admits it or not, that kills attraction. John, 52 years old, divorced after a 25-year marriage, started dating a woman named Carol. On their 3rd date, in an attempt to be completely honest, John opened up. He shared how broken he felt when his ex-wife left. He told Carol how he called her phone dozens of times in a single night, how he showed up at her workplace unannounced, how he begged her to give him another chance, promising to change everything about himself just so she would stay. At first, Carol's face softened. She felt sorry for him. She admired his vulnerability for about 5 minutes. But over time, something shifted. That sympathy turned into quiet judgment. She began to see John not as the confident, grounded man she thought she was dating, but as someone who was emotionally unsteady. Within weeks, she started pulling back. John didn't understand why. He thought his honesty would bring them closer. But what he really did was erase the image of strength and replace it with the image of a man who could be undone by love. That's the brutal truth. Once she sees you as a man who begged to be loved, she can't unsee it. Lessons versus desperation. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not telling you to bury your past or pretend you've never been hurt. Every man has scars, and those scars are what make you human. But there's a massive difference between sharing lessons and confessing desperation. If you say, I went through a divorce and it taught me how to set stronger boundaries, she hears growth. She sees resilience. She feels admiration. But if you say, I begged my ex to stay because I couldn't live without her, she hears weakness. And weakness kills attraction. The psychological truth is this: women are attracted to men who can survive without them. The moment she feels like she's your lifeline, the spark shifts. Instead of desire, she feels responsibility. And no woman wants to feel like she's responsible for another adult's emotional survival. That's not love. That's a burden. Then, if she truly cares about you, even if she tells you she's not materialistic, her instincts kick in the moment she senses financial disorder. She starts wondering, can I rely on this man? If life gets tough, will he be able to carry us through it? Or am I about to become the caretaker of another grown man's problems? And let me tell you, caretaker is not the role she wants to play. She doesn't want to feel like your financial mother. She wants to feel like your partner. Or better yet, like she's following the lead of a man who has his life under control. So when you overshare financial struggles in detail, especially early on, you accidentally shift the dynamic. Instead of being the man she admires, you become the man she has to worry about. And worry, my friend, is the enemy of attraction. The cracks in the foundation. Think of it like this. If you were building a house and the foundation had cracks, you wouldn't invite guests over to inspect the damage. You'd fix it first. Relationships work the same way. You don't drag her through every crack in your financial foundation. You show her the blueprint of the house you're building. Because here's the truth. She doesn't need to know every mistake, every number, every desperate thought that's kept you up at night. She needs to see that you're steering the ship, not being tossed around by the waves. How to frame it right? Let's put it in perspective. Wrong way. I'm drowning in debt. I don't know how I'll ever get out. It's been years and I just can't get a break. What she hears: instability, helplessness, and a life she might have to clean up if she stays with you. Right way. I've made some mistakes with money in the past, but here's the system I'm using now to rebuild. Here's where I'm headed. What she hears: leadership, growth, and direction. Notice the shift? You didn't lie. You didn't pretend. You just framed it with ownership. The trap of reassurance. Now let's get brutally honest. The real reason most men overshare their financial struggles isn't honesty. It's a cry for reassurance. Deep down, they hope she'll say, "It's okay. I don't care about money. I'll stand by you no matter what." And maybe she will. Maybe she'll even mean it. But here's the problem. Reassurance is temporary. Pity doesn't build respect. And attraction doesn't grow out of feeling sorry for you. What actually wins her respect is when she sees you owning your challenges, not dumping them in her lap. When she sees you handling things without asking her to carry the emotional weight of your financial life. Let me give you an example. Alex, 39 years old, was going through a tough financial season after his small business collapsed. He met a woman named Sophia, and on their second month of dating, he sat her down and told her everything. Every dollar of debt, every failed investment, every moment he'd felt like a failure. At first, Sophia comforted him. She admired his honesty, but within weeks, her energy changed. She stopped seeing him as ambitious and started seeing him as fragile. She worried about his future. She worried about her future if she stayed. Eventually, she admitted she didn't feel secure with him anymore. And that word, secure, is what this whole thing is about. Because security is attraction fuel. Insecurity is attraction poison. It's not the problem. It's the response. Here's the secret no one tells you. Most men think women only respect men who never make financial mistakes. Wrong. Financial struggles are common. Debt is common. Business failures are common. What separates men who keep a woman's respect from those who lose it isn't the size of the problem, it's the size of their response. One man says, "I'm stuck, I'm helpless, I can't see a way out." Another man says, "I'm adjusting, I'm learning, I'm building back stronger." Guess which one she's drawn to? It's not about being flawless, it's about being unshakable. Practical steps. So here's how you protect respect when it comes to money. 1. Don't overshare details. Early on, she doesn't need your balance sheet. She needs your mindset. 2. Frame past mistakes as lessons. Show her you've learned. Instead of, "I lost everything," say, "I learned how to rebuild." 3. Emphasize direction. Even if you're rebuilding, focus on your plan. not your pain. Women are attracted to trajectory more than totals. 4. Build before you reveal. When trust is deep and established, you can be more open. But even then, frame it as ownership, not helplessness. The bigger truth. At the end of the day, she doesn't fall in love with your financial numbers. She falls in love with your leadership. If you're broke but building, she'll respect you. If you're unstable and oversharing, she'll pity you. And here's the brutal truth. Once she pities you, attraction dies. So remember this. Never dump the full weight of your financial struggles into her lap. Instead, show her the mindset, the direction, and the discipline that prove you're steering your own life. Because the man she admires isn't the one who never fails. It's the one who fails, learns, and rises again without needing her to hold the lifeline. But money isn't the only place where men destroy their own respect. There's another mistake that cuts even deeper. It's when you confess your weaknesses with other women. And once she senses that, the entire dynamic shifts. Secret number 3. Never tell her your weaknesses with other women. Let's be real for a moment. Most men have this belief. If I tell her everything about my past relationships, every mistake, every betrayal, every way I was hurt, she'll see how honest I am. She'll appreciate my loyalty. She'll love me more for being open. Wrong. That's not what happens. What she actually hears when you overshare about how another woman manipulated you, disrespected you, or even betrayed you, is that you were the kind of man who tolerated it. And in her mind, that translates to weakness. The truth is simple but brutal. Women respect men who respect themselves. When you tell her how you stayed with someone who walked all over you, you're not proving how loyal you are. You're advertising how much disrespect you'll tolerate before you finally stand up for yourself. The story of David. Let me give you a story to make this crystal clear. David, 46 years old, was recently divorced after a long and painful marriage. He started dating a woman named Laura. On their 4th or 5th date, after a glass of wine, David opened up about his past. He told Laura how his ex-wife had crossed the line with other men, how she flirted behind his back, how she even formed hidden involvements he knew about. And yet he stayed. He told her how he tolerated her disrespect because he didn't want to lose his family. He thought this confession would make him look selfless, patient, and loving. 2. Share the lesson, not the loss. Instead of focusing on how badly you were treated, focus on what you learned about yourself. 3. Speak from strength, not from scars. Keep it short, keep it grounded, and always frame it in terms of growth. For example, wrong. I stayed with my ex even when she cheated on me because I couldn't live without her. Right. That experience taught me the importance of respecting myself first and setting firm boundaries. One paints you as powerless, the other paints you as principled. Why this matters. Here's why this shift is everything. Once a woman sees you as weak with other women, she'll either lose attraction or test that weakness herself. And let me be blunt. If she senses she can control you, the dynamic between you will change forever. She may not even do it consciously, but she'll push boundaries just to see how far she can go. If she succeeds, respect is gone. If she fails, attraction is damaged. Either way, you lose. That's why you must protect your dignity in how you tell your story. The trust test. Here's a simple rule. Before you share something about your past with her, ask yourself this. If I told this to a strong mentor I respect, would I be proud of the way I'm telling it? If the answer is no, it's not something you should tell a woman in that way. It's not about hiding your past. It's about owning your past. Because when you present yourself as a man who has grown, who has set higher standards, and who has learned to respect himself, she doesn't just see your history, she sees your strength. The bigger picture. At the end of the day, never highlight your weakness with other women. Highlight the lessons you've taken from those experiences. Secret number 4. Never confess your deepest insecurities. Every man has doubts. Every man has moments where he questions if he's good enough, strong enough, attractive enough, or worthy enough. That's normal. But here's the mistake that destroys attraction faster than anything else. unloading those insecurities onto a woman and expecting her to fix them. You might think you're being vulnerable. You might think she'll appreciate your honesty. You might think it'll make her feel closer to you. The harsh reality? When you expose your deepest insecurities, you don't draw her in, you push her away. Because attraction doesn't grow from seeing your cracks. It grows from seeing how you handle them. The trap of emotional dependence. Let me give you a scenario. At first, Laura nodded. She gave him sympathy. She said things like, "Wow, you didn't deserve that." But here's the problem. Over the next few weeks, her attraction quietly slipped away. Why? Because in her mind, she started seeing David differently. Not as a strong, grounded man, but as someone who lacked the strength to walk away from disrespect. And once that picture formed, it was almost impossible to erase. Here's the cold truth. Attraction doesn't live in pity. Respect doesn't grow out of sympathy. And no woman wants to see her man as someone who could be controlled. The psychology behind it. Let me break this down. When you reveal that another woman manipulated you, 3 things happen in her subconscious. 1. She sees your threshold for disrespect. By admitting you stayed, you've shown her exactly how much she could get away with before you'd ever walk. Teine questions your standards. If you tolerate betrayal on se, she wonders if you actually value yourself enough to enforce boundaries. Kolmas se loses certainty in your strength. Attraction thrives when a woman feels she's with a man who won't compromise his dignity for love. Oversharing tells her the opposite. That sweet is one of the fastest ways to erode respect without even realizing it. The victim was survivor heres from you must understand every man who's been in relationships has a story of disrespect, betrayal or heartbreak. That's not the issue. The issue is how you tell the story. You're either presenting yourself as a victim of your past or as a survivor of it, compared to her past boyfriends. One night, in a moment of weakness, he blurts out, "Sometimes I feel like I'm not good enough for you. Sometimes I wonder if you'll get bored and leave me for someone better." He thinks this honesty will make her reassure him. And at first, she does. She tells him, "No, you're amazing. I'm here with you, aren't I?" But here's what really happens beneath the surface. A seed of doubt has been planted in her mind. She begins to wonder, why would he feel like that? Is there something I'm not seeing? If he doesn't even believe in his own value, should I? It's subtle at first, but over time, his insecurity reshapes her perception of him. She no longer sees him as the strong, confident man she was drawn to, but as someone uncertain, fragile, and dependent on her approval. And nothing suffocates attraction faster than emotional dependence. The silent equation of attraction. Here's what you must understand. Attraction is built on polarity. It thrives when she feels your strength, your stability, your certainty. When you lean on her to patch up your insecurities, you flip that polarity. Instead of her being drawn into your strength, she feels the burden of holding up your weakness. And that shift slowly kills the relationship. Because a woman can comfort you for a moment, but she cannot carry your confidence for you. That's your job as a man. Vulnerability versus weakness. Now let me be clear, this doesn't mean you should never open up. There's a difference between vulnerability and weakness. Vulnerability is when you share something real about yourself, but from a place of strength. Example. There was a time in my life when I doubted myself, but it taught me discipline and resilience. Weakness is when you confess something real, but from a place of fear, hoping she'll fix it for you. Example. I'm scared you'll find someone better than me and leave. One builds respect, the other destroys it. Women are not turned off by vulnerability. They're turned off by insecurity. Why men overshare? So why do men fall into this trap? Because society has told men that being open and honest in relationships means dumping every raw thought and fear onto their partner. Men confuse transparency with trust. But here's the truth. Self-mastery earns more respect than self-exposure. A woman doesn't want to be the container for all your fears. She wants to see that you can carry them yourself. That's what makes her feel safe with you. The confidence leak. Think of your insecurities like a leak in a ship. If you patch it, the ship stays afloat, strong and reliable. If you ignore it, or worse, point it out to everyone, the whole ship becomes questionable. That's exactly how insecurities work in relationships. The more you point them out, the more she questions your ability to lead, protect, and provide stability. And once she doubts that, attraction begins to sink. The right way to handle insecurities. So, what should you do with your insecurities? 1. Own them privately. Don't run from them. Face them head on. A man who knows his flaws but works on them is far more attractive than a man who denies them or dumps them on others. 2. Transmute them into drive. Use your insecurities as fuel for growth. If you feel you're not successful enough, channel that energy into building your skills and career, not into begging for reassurance. 3. Show, don't tell. Instead of saying, "I'm worried I'm not good enough," prove you are by your actions, your standards, your leadership. 4. Frame from strength. If you ever do share, do it like this. I've had moments where I doubted myself, but those moments made me stronger. They taught me how to handle pressure. That way, you're not asking for reassurance, you're showing resilience. The long-term consequence. Here's the brutal reality. The moment a woman feels she has to constantly reassure you, the dynamic shifts. She stops seeing you as the rock and starts seeing you as the burden. At first, she'll give you comfort, but eventually she'll resent you for needing it too often. And once resentment creeps in, attraction is gone. The bigger secret. At the core, never forget this. Women fall in love with your strength, not your scars. That doesn't mean you need to pretend to be perfect. It means you need to own your imperfections in a way that shows growth, not weakness. Because when you show her, you can face your insecurities without needing her to fix them. She'll feel safe with you, she'll admire you, and she'll respect you more than any man who tries to bond by oversharing his wounds. Final words. Now you've seen all 4 secrets. Never reveal the full extent of your past mistakes from at hem as lessons. Never admit how deeply another woman onse kontrolled you så grått instead. Never higlikt your weaknesses with other woman speak from strength. And never confess your deepest insecurities, owned them, mastered them, transformed them. These aren't games. Teire principles of respect. Because heres te trutt te moment a womanloses respect lovedies. So protect it, guard it, and never hand over your power by revealing what soul be carried, owned, and transformed within yourself. Because at the end of the day, attraction isn't about perfection, it is about direction. If she says Jore, a man was always growing, always leading, always standing strong no matter what, she'll never stop respecting you. And respect is the foundation of loved at last. How to frame it right. So, what's the solution? Simple. Share the growth, not the groveling. Instead of replaying the moments where you lost control, highlight how you found your center again. Don't confess how you crawled. Explain how you stood back up. For example, instead of telling her about the 100 unanswered texts you sent your ex, you say, "My divorce showed me how important it is to never lose myself in a relationship again." See the difference? One version makes her question your backbone. The other makes her admire it. If you're looking for pity, you'll get it. But pity isn't attraction. Attraction grows when she sees you as a man who has been through storms and still knows how to steer the ship. Vulnerability doesn't mean bleeding out your worst moments. It means owning your lessons and showing how you've transformed because of them. And here's the kicker. If you frame your past with strength, you don't just protect her respect, you reinforce your own dignity. Because the real danger isn't just that she loses interest, it's that you start believing your own worst story about yourself. And once you buy into that, every relationship becomes a repeat of the same downfall. So hear me clearly. Never tell her how desperate you've been for love. Instead, tell her how you built yourself back after love tested you. That's what makes you magnetic. That's what keeps her eyes locked on you. But desperation isn't the only secret that can destroy her respect. There's another one, and it hides in a place most men think they're safe to share: your finances. And that, my friend, is where many men sabotage themselves without even realizing it. Secret number 22: never tell her your financial struggles in detail. This one hits harder than most men realize. We live in a world where, fairly or unfairly, men are often measured by their ability to provide stability. And I don't just mean money in the bank. I'm talking about direction, security, and the confidence that life is handled. Now, here's where so many men slip. They sit across from a woman, maybe early in dating, maybe even after a few months, and they unload every detail of their financial struggles. They talk about their debt, the credit cards they maxed out, the business that failed, or the loans they can't seem to escape. They think they're being honest. They think transparency will build intimacy. But what she actually feels isn't closeness. It's instability. Why finances hit different. Here's the psychology behind it. Women equate financial chaos with emotional chaos.